Hi everybody, it's Russ from My Hammers 11. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting that bell icon so you're notified of any time we put new content on. Videos going up daily, but sometimes you lucky buggers 2-3 times a day, particularly if I'm in a good mood. I don't know why that might be. And so you want to make sure you hit that bell icon so you're made aware that we've got a new video on. Obviously, every story, every memory, every fan, every ex-player interview is a personal sort of recollection of their time at West Ham or their time supporting. So make sure you don't miss any. Including today's lifelong fan. He's very excited to be on the channel. He's dressed up for the occasion. It's Don Perretta. Hi, Don. How you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks. Especially this morning after that glorious victory over Chelsea. Stunning night, classic night. Well done, everybody. But yes, I'm well and excited to be here.
More excited than probably 24 hours before, which is it's surprising.
Definitely.
It's surprising. So Don, obviously you're decked in the claret and blue. The first question I always ask everyone is why West Ham? Why is West Ham your club?
Well, that's a very decent question, may I say. So I've always maintained that you don't choose your football club. Your football club chooses you.
Very true.
If you're a true fan.
Yeah.
So for some people, it's because it's been handed down through the family, in which case you have really zero choice. Or, in other cases, just something happens which pushes you in a certain direction. In my case, there was no one in my family who was interested in football pretty much, and certainly no West Ham connection. If anything, my dad was slightly interested in Fulham, but not really. Yeah. So the reason I became a West Ham fan is because I was about 4 years old and I was watching one of the football TV shows. I'm not sure if it was Match of the Day or The Big Match or whatever it was at the time. And West Ham were on, and it was more Petershurst and I think it was QPR, and they destroyed them, absolutely destroyed them. And from that moment on, West Ham were my team. I grew up in South East London, so really it should be Charlton or, the other M-word team. But it was never an issue. I fell in love instantly, and it's been West Ham ever since.
Yeah, exactly. What was your first game? Do you remember your first game, Don?
First game, 1968, Chelsea at home. We won 2-0. I couldn't see anything. I was surrounded by very tall men. I was 7 or 8. And I just got off on the noise, really. Occasionally, I could see through the crack between a few people. I was standing in the North Bank, and I was just, just instantly addicted to because I didn't realise how much people celebrated a goal.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, I watch it on telly at home, whatever, and you celebrate or whatever, you enjoy a goal. But the level of hysteria to an 8-year-old kid of what happened to these grown men when we scored a goal, it was a bit traumatizing at first.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, they've gone mad. And then I thought, oh, that's why. That's what happens when we score. Yes. Yeah. And again, it was like an eye-opening moment for me. It was great. I remember it, but in black and white, really.
And obviously, and they beat Chelsea. We're quite used to doing that now.
There's a bit of circularity about
it. Yin and yang about this. This is almost like we planned it, Don.
Never would have thought that connection, but there you go. It's happened. Hurrah!
Hurrah, indeed. And so obviously, since sort of the late '60s onwards, obviously supporting the club through thin and thick, not thick and thin. Yeah, exactly. More thin and thick. There must be some sort of some games or some moments which sort of stick in your mind as being.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I didn't start going regularly till I could afford it, which was I was 17. So, but it's the occasional game I could get in, which included the 75 FA Cup final. I managed to get a ticket for that. I don't know how, which was terrific. But the kind of games against Anderlecht and Dynamo Tbilisi are standout games. But the first real proper standout game for me was the 1980 FA Cup final.
Yeah,
I was at uni, and one of my friends, his dad was a member of the Lancashire Football Association committee or something. I managed to get me a ticket for the final, which I found the other day whilst having a rummage. Oh, wow. But it was for the Arsenal end, which was quite interesting. But, I was 19, 20, coming up to my 20th birthday, 19. And I was full of bravado. So I went in my colours, and I didn't care who knew it. And I stood in the Arsenal end in my colours, and it was great. And then we scored, and I got hit over the head with a piece of wood. But I didn't care. I really didn't care. I then decided, perhaps best to kind of go a little bit further to the side and perhaps get out of the way of this, because I was the only claret and blue shirt anywhere in that end. But there you go. You do those things when you're young and stupid. But it was a great day. Absolutely great day. And I tell you what, when Willie Young pulled down Paul Allen on the edge of the box, I was ready to take on the whole Arsenal end. I was so incensed by that moment. But then I was sort of sensibly told to calm down, and I did.
Thought better judgment.
Man, I was angry. Anyway, we won, so there you go.
Exactly. You won. You got hit over the head with a lump of wood. I don't know where they got that from.
There's many great memories. I remember going to Birmingham in about '82, and it was snowing so hard you couldn't see the goal at the other end.
Wow.
And basically, so West Ham fans started doing the conga in the driving snow on the away end. It was great. Another wonderful memory, I think Steve was there that night, is when we beat Tottenham at White Hart Lane 4-0, and Psycho Cross scored all 4 goals.
Yeah.
That was an absolute magical night. One of the great nights as a West Ham fan for me. We were just magnificent that night. And you can see all the goals are on YouTube somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And glad to see that my memory of the goals is pretty good compared to
because you have these sort of claret tinted glasses sometimes, isn't it? Yeah.
The third goal is an absolute masterpiece. But it was just because we'd only just got promoted again after losing the League Cup final to Liverpool.
Yeah.
Because we would have been, I think, had we done that, the first second division team to win the FA Cup and the League Cup, but we didn't because we got robbed. But there you go. Standard stuff. So it was our first sort of proper London derby after we got promoted again, if my recollection is correct. And we absolutely destroyed them, and it was fantastic. It was just such a great night. Great night. And I don't know, there's lots of others.
There's loads.
2006 FA Cup final, that's a great one.
Yeah.
All the playoff games.
Yeah.
Including the one at Wembley that Steve Rapport mentioned when he was on.
Yeah.
The 2006 FA Cup final, that's a great story. You want to hear the story?
Yeah, of course, though. That's why we're here. We're here for the stories, man.
So I'm just conscious of rabbit on a little bit too much, but anyway, I'll do it anyway. So it was obviously a wonderful season. Alan Pardew in his pomp. We were just, Nigel Reo-Coker could play football at the time, and Dean Ashton hadn't been injured, and all sorts of wonderful things were happening. So we had 2 season tickets at that point as a family, and we kind of chopped and changed who went, because I got 2 children, and my wife, my dear late wife, was a West Ham fan as well. So between us, we kind of chopped and changed who would go. So I got 2 tickets for the semi-final, and then I got 2 tickets for the final. So the 2 tickets for the semi-final, I took my son, and obviously Marlon Harewood. We beat Middlesbrough. It was a great day, fantastic. But so then it was my daughter's turn. You see, the final was my daughter's turn. And my son very nobly said, that's all right, let Sophie go. I went to the semi, incredibly grown up of him.
Very much so.
Because I'd have been sulking for the rest of my life, I think. Anyway, but as a family, we all went to Cardiff anyway. We got in the car, and my missus said, don't worry, I'll sit and watch it in a bar somewhere, watch it on the telly.
Yeah.
Because obviously didn't want to leave my son on his own.
No.
But in the meantime, I'm in the stadium with my daughter. We found our seats. And I'm ringing everybody I know to see if anyone's got a spare ticket or 2 spare tickets. And at the time, I'm still friends with him, but at the time, a guy called Phil Hall, who is the former editor of the News of the World, was the chief of press at West Ham. And I happened to, he was like sitting about 6 seats down from me. So I said, Phil, have you got any tickets? He goes, I might have one. He said, so just give me a couple of minutes. And this was about 2:45, not long before kickoff. And I'm thinking, oh my God. And so at 2:50, he says, yes, I've got a ticket. It's like, oh. So I pick up my mobile phone, can't get a signal. I said to my daughter was like 11 at the time, I think. Yeah. I said, sit there, do not move. I'll be back as soon as I can, because I can't live alone in a 80,000.
Little Carly.
Anyway, so I'm running along the concourse outside with my phone, trying to get a signal, finally get through. And I said to my wife, send him to the gate now. And I told him which gate number to go to. I had this ticket in my hand, obviously, but he needed the ticket to get into the
Yeah,
stadium.
yeah.
So I'm legging it to the gate, and I told him which gate number was the closest one, and then so he came to the stadium on his own, but they wouldn't. Obviously, there were checkpoints all the way through,
Yeah.
and you couldn't get to the gate unless you could show you had a ticket. So it's like, oh my god! So I'm going ah. So I spoke to a security guy who was unbelievably helpful. He was incredible. I said, look, this is the situation. I've got the ticket, my son. So he's radioing like 4 check stations ahead. And it was like royalty. They waved him through. They just said, I said, look for the boy with the West Ham shirt, blah, 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 you know.
Yeah.
A really good description. And they just literally, the Red Sea parted, and I could see him coming in the distance towards me. And he got to the turnstile. I fed him the ticket through the barrier. And he came through, and we gave each other the biggest hug in the history of West Ham.
Yeah.
And all of the security staff at that point went, oh. So then we legged it up. So he was sitting about a block to one side. It turns out he sat for the whole game next to Alan Pardew's wife.
Brilliant.
And what happened. So it was, even though we lost, it was an amazing and very memorable day. And, you know,
and that's
the moral victory was ours, even if the actual victory
no,
wasn't
exactly.
ours.
It really was. And it's one of those games where I don't think I've been to a game where you've walked out and the opposition, you sort of meet him in the street and they go, "Oh, you should have won that." And it's like, what?
Worst team won.
Worst team won. Yeah, they really did. And that's the thing about West Ham as well. It's like football is secondary to being a West Ham fan, particularly in the modern day. And it's the stories you said. You said, I went with Steve and I did this and got a ticket. And it's not necessarily about the match. It's about the experience, and that's what. And sort of the family, the West Ham family, and the community. That's even more seems apparent since we've been in lockdown. On Facebook and Twitter, and there's been sort of everyone sort of good banter going around. I don't think any other. I mean, I'm obviously we're prejudiced towards that, but I don't think I'd see that in any other clubs. You know what I mean? In terms of supporters, which have this togetherness, which I don't think I've seen.
Well, I think ours is a heavy cross to bear.
Yeah.
And if you haven't got a good sense of humour and also a sense of, the West Hamness of West Ham, you just can't survive it. The emotional trauma attached is just too hard. I mean, when you have some of the catastrophe, on-pitch catastrophes that we've had, and off-pitch rubbish that we have to put up with as well, and all the VARs, pretty much, I think we've had one in our favour all season, or maybe two. Otherwise, they've all gone against us. Yeah. There's a penalty decision early on where Sebastian Haller was attacked with a tank, a chainsaw, and several, Viking axes, and the ref still didn't give a penalty. I don't know if you remember that one. It's unbelievable. And VAR, nothing. It's like, what do you have to do? It's like when Di Canio, he could not buy a penalty, Di Canio. The refs would not give him a penalty. Unbelievable. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah, and it is, but you're right, and it is the West Hamness. I mean, it's been dog awful since it's kicked off, and it's restarted, and then you had yesterday, and that is so West Ham in a three match, sort of period.
I think one of the things that is because obviously everyone's biased about their own club and how good the fans are, but consistently players from other clubs that come to West Ham always praise the fans. Always say, when I was playing at other clubs, we didn't like to come to Upton Park because the fans were so intimidating and blah blah blah. And also, without exception, we must be the best away fans. We must be, because every allocation is always sold out. We always make a huge amount of noise. It's always really really funny. And one season, for madness, I don't know what, I had an away season ticket. So I went to a lot of games, a lot of dismal, went all the way to Wigan, watched us lose 1-0 and about -5. And it's just like, why did I do that? And the reason I did it is because it's such a laugh, travelling away with us. I mean, I would not like to go on the train, I must admit. I think that would be a bit of a visceral experience. But just being up there. And when you got an away season ticket, you always sit next to the same people, so you kind of get you get to understand who other people's favourite players are, or least favourite players are. And I just had it in for Craig Etherington. I just had it in for him all the time. But anyway, that's another story. And the people next to me said, "Give him a break! Give him a break!" and I never would. Obviously, that's not my way. I don't give anyone a break.
You're right. I know what you mean.
Go on.
No, but I know what you mean. It is a laugh, isn't it? And it is like it is about those people you sit around. If you've got a season ticket, whether it's home or away, you might. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people I haven't spoken to before since doing this channel who I've become close friends with now. And it's like, and the only thing that joins us together is supporting a club in East London, really. Yeah, the Mighty Hammers, and I think that's what people miss about obviously the sort of the no fans in the grounds at the moment. It's not about the football; it's about going and seeing Bob with a flat cap and Bill who drinks his Bovril, and
going down the black line or Ken's calf or whatever your pre-match ritual is. It's true. Absolutely true. My pre-match ritual was trying to beat the traffic and getting there 2 minutes before kickoff quite often. I'm terrible at my timekeeping, but anyway.
I'm the other way. I'm totally the other way. So I mean, when I go to other football matches, because I'm there like at least 4 or 5 hours before kickoff to set up. If I'm when I was living in the States, I went to a couple of MLS games. I turned up 4 hours before and wondered why I wasn't being allowed in, and I was like, "Oh bollocks, I forgot." So, but it's just it's all routine, isn't it? You said trying to get the last 2 minutes, make sure you get the right.
It wasn't. I'm not always I often got there early enough to get a bacon sandwich and Ken's calf, but quite often it was touch and go. Yeah. But what's great, I mean, ever since I started supporting West Ham, I've got 2 younger brothers, so they had no choice. They had to start supporting West Ham. My wife, my dear late wife, was a West Ham supporter, but she supported West Ham before she met me, and it was one of those things that she was like a huge Clyde Best fan. She saw him when she was like 10 or whatever, and that was it. She was a West Ham fan from that point on. And my 2 kids are West Ham fans. All my younger cousins, basically, I've bludgeoned them into submission. They have zero choice but to be West Ham. So I'm surrounded by a nice little comfort blanket, and we all suffer together and we all celebrate together. So.
Yes, no, exactly. I'm the same. My daughter, well, she was due on the playoff final, the Blackpool final, and I had a front row ticket. So I went to Wembley.
Only one winner there.
Yes, I went to Wembley, and I was also Hammerhead's chaperone for the day as well. So I went to Wembley, so I got a free ticket. And within 3 days, when she was born a couple of days afterwards, and then I got a picture of her in the playoff trophy, probably about 2 days old. So she was marked already, unfortunately.
Of course, I took my kids to the stadium, not to a game, but I took them to the stadium.
Yeah.
Both of them before they were 3 months old, and stood by the gates and let them smell it and feel it and experience being there. Because you have to imprint, don't you? When they're very young, you have to imprint. It's like when they're born, the shape of their mother is imprinted on their memory. So I had to imprint, the gate and the twin towers, the castle turrets on their memory. It's important to do that stuff.
It's so true. I mean, today my daughter got ready and she was like, "Oh, what should I put on today, Daddy?" And I was like, "I don't know. You can pick what you want." And she came back down full West Ham kit because we won, didn't we, Daddy? And I was like, "Oh my God!"
I was going to say tears. I would be streaming, absolutely
because
streaming.
Because we won.
The older you get, the more tearful you are, and it's
true, isn't it? It's really true. It's really true.
I cry at Repair Shop. Every episode of Repair Shop. Every episode. I'm addicted to that show, and it makes me cry every time.
Yeah.
You've never seen it, but it's magnificent.
Oh,
Anyone never seen Repair Shop, watch Repair Shop, go on iPlayer and find the episode with the jukebox in it. I don't know if you've seen that one, Rusty.
No.
Amazing. Tearjerker beyond tearjerker. Anyway, that is kind of by the by.
Anyway, West Ham, and then West Ham always takes us to tears anyway, not necessarily happy tears all the time.
Yeah, well, I've cried so many times at Upton Park, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But anyway. Yes. So I've got, I don't know if you want to, before we launch in, I've got a nice Paolo Di Canio story as well. If you
go for it. That. Go on.
Well, some of you may know, and you may know, Russ, I used to work in television before my life took a bit of a left turn. And the company I worked for was a company called Chrysalis Sport, and we did a lot of things. We made the Graham Taylor documentary. We made several documentaries about Paul Gascoigne, which I produced. I used to produce Italian football for many years. So we had this idea of approaching Paolo Di Canio to do, in his pomp, to do a documentary about him, to do a close-up, little fly on the wall. because the team that I was in, we had made, I hate to take full credit for anything, we had made several documentaries about Paul Gascoigne. That's one of the things that was an interesting period of my professional life for sure. Working with Gaz, a very interesting guy. And so I thought, well, who's the other maverick around that is sublime footballer? PDC. So approached his management, very interested. Had a few meetings, went to his house. He gave me a signed shirt, the actual shirt he wore when we beat Charlton. He beat Charlton on his own. I don't know if you remember that game. I think he won 2-0. And he just, basically, all the other 10 players went to sleep. He beat them by himself. It was amazing. He made me a cup of coffee and we had a long chat. And we went to his house in Loughton. He had a Jaguar parked out front, everything you would imagine. Huge, massive television set before you got the really big ones. One of those, those rear projection tellies before the plasma screens. He had one that was the size of a bus. It was unbelievably big. And then it's like, oh man, and I discussed how we were going to make the film and we wanted to go back to Italy, but, and trace his story, everything, do all of that stuff. And then he just wanted too much money. It was a stupid amount of money. I think he wanted like £100,000. And at that time, I think the most we'd ever paid Gaz was about 60 grand. So for Di Canio to want that much more than Gaza, it was just not affordable. We could not get the budget together to make the film and to pay him £100,000. So it went away. Unfortunately, it went away. But at least I got a shirt from the man himself. And it was nice. Sorry, my phone. I should have put it on silent. I do apologise.
That'd be silly.
Down on silent now. There you go. So that was great. Loved it. That was a great experience. Cup of coffee and a shirt from the great man. So there you go. But he was a lunatic. Absolutely, no question. Total lunatic.
An absolute lunatic.
But charming as well. Yeah, very charming.
Well, let's move on to the 11, because obviously there's some players you mentioned already, and I don't want to sort of any spoilers. So as I said, the whole idea is you have to be alive to have seen them play. That's the only caveat. Obviously, from the late '60s onwards, you've got quite a nice spread there, Don.
Well, I've kind of added a few other parameters because the one thing I don't want to do is the same as everybody else. That's kind of my mantra in life. And being of Italian descent, I thought I would concentrate on the foreign. I tried to get an Italian 11. That's clearly not enough Italians have played for us. So I thought, okay, I'll do a foreign 11. Nice. And my parameters were not playing currently. And not obvious.
Brilliant. Love it.
I have excluded Payet, Tevez and Mascherano because they're just too obvious.
Love it.
Love them though I did.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about Mascherano later if we can, because I think he gets bad press and it's ridiculous what gets said about him. Yeah. But let's talk about the 11 first.
Okay, let's start in goal.
I've always thought that actually our best position consistently over the years has been goalkeeper.
Agreed.
We've very rarely had a crap goal. We've had a few minutes of crap goalkeeper, but for as long as I've been at West Ham, we've always had a pretty decent goalkeeper. So obviously the obvious choice would be Ludo. He's a foreigner. He's brilliant. Yeah. But so not wanting to go the other way, I've gone for Jussi Jääskeläinen, who I thought was a fantastic goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And the great thing about getting goalies late in their career, because obviously we always buy players after their peak, but goalies get better as they get older until their arms fall off. But until their arms fall off, they're always going to be great goalkeepers. And Jääskeläinen was brilliant. I thought he was an absolutely fantastic keeper. We're also very lucky to have a good one now. But obviously, he'd be too obvious to put Fab in there.
He's a current player. Exactly.
Okay. So Jussi gets my vote in goal. So right back is the wunderkind known as Sebastian Schemmel.
Yes.
Who is, to my mind, probably the last decent right back we've had at the club.
Yeah.
The last proper right back. Only won Hammer of the Year in his first year, which, when does that happen as a defender?
Yeah.
Especially one who's been brought in. And that first season, he was extraordinary.
Yeah.
He was another one who won games on his own just because of his strength of character and his refusal to give in. He was wonderful.
So, then he cut his hair,
Yeah.
and then he was crap. He was like Samson, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's funny how regularly we turn.
Yeah.
We have the opposite of the Midas touch with footballers, don't we? We have the deep, smelly crap touch, and not always. Obviously, David Cross, who we can talk about afterwards, he was a player that absolutely developed so much. West Ham, he became a stunningly brilliant centre forward. He should have, represented his country and all the rest of it. So, and on the other side, at fullback, Herita Ilunga.
Oh, Ilunga. First time he's appeared in the channel.
And you know what? Another one who had an absolutely extraordinary first period whilst he was at the club, and then somehow something happened to him.
Yeah.
Whether someone drilled his kneecaps or something, I don't know. But he just suddenly forgot how to play football. But his initial performances were amazing. He was so good. And then he just disappeared off the face of the earth. He's Congolese, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah. Something like that.
And he was brilliant, athletic, quick, fearless in the tackle, could pass the ball. A bit. Masuaku's a little reminiscent of him.
Yeah.
But Masuaku was nothing like as good a defender as Ilunga. So he would be my left back. Now in the middle, it wouldn't surprise you to say, even though it might be slightly obvious, but Slav Bilic has to get a mention as our central defender, because even though he wasn't with us for very long, he was a very noble. He signed for Everton, but he stayed for us to finish the season so that we stayed up. To me, that's a very, and B was a fantastic centre half. But if it's nobility alone, Bilic has to make my centre half, and he was really good.
He was good.
Guitar playing, lawyer, genius, louche, Renaissance centre half, Renaissance man centre half, just brilliant. And alongside him is the man mountain known as Mark Reaper.
God bless
Colossus.
Yes.
If Marvel films had been around then, he would have been cast in one of those films.
He was brilliant.
Chiseled, magnificent creature, slight.
And his hair as well, because he had almost like a, I don't know, he's like very square head, wasn't it?
It was like he put it on in the morning with super glue. And he was just really, he was the centre half that Matthew Upson dreamed of being, if you ask me. Physically very similar, but Reaper streets ahead of Upson. And, just that chiseled kind of superhero look. Amazing. So there you go. That's my back five.
Nice.
Yes. So the midfield is interesting.
Okay.
I think, he says modestly. So let's start in the middle. Yeah. Because the wings might cause a bit of debate. But in the middle, I start off with our defensive midfielder, be Mark Vivian Foe.
God bless him.
Who the great tragic loss to football, and who took a few games. I think it took about half a dozen games to get up to speed with us. But as soon as he hit his stride, he was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
He kind of gets forgotten, but he's just such a great player.
Yeah.
And the thing about him is he was physically imposing and all that, but he was a great footballer as well. He had really good feet. Yeah. And the thing that I keep reminding people, because that's the kind of guy I am, is that in the Di Canio Kung Fu volley, everyone remembers the pass that Trevor Sinclair played to Di Canio.
I know you're going to say,
Boe pass to Sinclair, which is just as long and just as accurate from the other side of the field.
Yeah.
It's an integral part of that goal. And often when you watch it, they cut just before Sinclair. Yeah. They should show it from Foe. I mean, there might even be another bit before that I've forgotten about. But the Foe pass to Sinclair is outstanding. So yeah, wonderful.
And he was like the, he was the mould for the, what went on to be that sort of that marauding sort of big central midfield presence, isn't it? You got the Vieira, Yaya Torres. Foe was the first one. Was the first one.
Yeah, he definitely was the prototype. And there's something about the physicality of West Africans, without wanting to be, controversial, but it's true, there's a very strong in the same way that East Africans, the way that gene pool has worked is they're a lot slighter and they're more about stamina and distance running, all the rest of it. Whereas in West Africa, they're big, strong, fast, skillful, you know, like Drogba, you know, that body shape and that level of athleticism. And they're perfect for modern football, isn't they? They are absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Agreed.
And then, so alongside him is I would say, obviously, the direct opposite in Ail Berkovic, small, Israeli, pale magician, extraordinary footballer.
Incredible player.
And obviously received a kick in the head for his troubles from John Hartson, which automatically selected him for this 11. Just that alone got him in, because that's such an incredible story that could happen in front of the Sky's cameras at training, and it get out into the public as well.
And we interviewed
only West Ham. Only West Ham.
I interviewed Bertie Brayley, who was part of the '99 FA Cup winning side, and that was his first training session. The first team. It was called over by Harry. Him and Joe were called in to act as a couple of, you know, guinea pig type things. Literally 5 minutes in, that happened. Bertie and Joe went. Bertie never went again.
It's unbelievable.
Brilliant.
There you go. So I mean, Berkovic was he was a proper, what they call in Italy, a fantasista, you know, the person who could conjure up the perfect pass. He was like a mini Trevor Brooking, you know. He was not an athlete, he was not a speed merchant. He just had an incredible ability to get around people and just to lay off the perfect pass. He was a great footballer, absolutely brilliant footballer. And I don't know if you've seen pictures of him lately, but man, has he put on some weight. Oh my Lord.
We've had him on the pitch a couple of times at London Stadium. Wow. Yeah.
But, you know,
there's certain players when you look at them and they don't look much different. You know, Billy Bonds is Billy Bonds. Totally. Trevor Brooking. And there's two, Berkovic and Devonshire. They don't look anything like what they look like in their playing days, really.
Lordy. That's true. But there you go. I think if you're used to training twice a day and eating anything you like, when you stop doing that and you don't adjust your lifestyle, shall we say, and your eating habits, you're going to balloon. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, my trouble was, Don, I never actually did the playing stuff. That's the
You know, I am also a human balloon. I know the struggles you face. You know.
Oh dear, I thought lockdown would have helped.
Fancies, eh? Can't get away from them.
I know.
So on the left then,
yeah,
is Alessandro Diamanti.
Oh, you got your Italian in.
I had to get at least one in.
Yeah,
and he, without a doubt, and I don't care what anybody else said, had the best left foot we'd seen at Upton Park since Liam Brady. He had laser precision in that foot. His free kicks, his long distance passing. I mean, I think the timing for him was wrong. I think had he come at a different time, had he come now, instead of having Anderson on the left, would have Diamanti on the left. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He would be amazing. But there you go. I really enjoyed watching him play. I thought he was usually head and shoulders above everybody else on the pitch. And the problem is he couldn't play down to people's level a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And they couldn't raise their game to his level. So he's playing passes to people he thinks should be there. And often they weren't because they hadn't read it, they hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately that was a problem. But when he was doing it by himself, what a great footballer he was. Fantastic footballer.
He was brilliant.
And a great name that people consistently mispronounce or misspell. But there you go.
As always the way with foreign players, unfortunately.
Exactly. Paolo Di Canio is consistently misspelled with a U, but there you go. We'll get on to that later. So now, right wing I had a real problem with.
Yeah.
I could not, for a long time, find a foreign right-sided player that A, was any good, B, stayed at the club longer than 2 minutes. Like the Pablo Barreras of this world.
I was going to say Pablo Barrera, yeah. He came straight away.
Him. So I had to slightly amend my criteria for right wing because this guy that I eventually chose was not at the club for very long. But boy, did he shine brightly for the period he was there. And that is Dani, Portugee.
Yeah, first time he's appeared on the channel.
9 games, I think he played. And he scored winner against Tottenham.
Yeah.
And he scored an unbelievable goal against Manchester City. And he was a player, proper player. He was 19. He had unbelievable feet. He was the best-looking man ever to play for West Ham, probably. He was gorgeous, aesthetically speaking. And I don't know how we didn't convert him to a permanent player. I think he fell out with Harry for some reason. I think Harry, there was reports of him going to a nightclub or something, and then Harry didn't extend his loan. I can't remember exactly the the circumstances for it. But it's like, how can you not sign this kid up? He was so good.
Yeah.
So yes, brief but shone very, very brightly. Danny makes right side of midfield. There you go.
Lovely, I like it. Yeah, you're right. We had that sort of period, weren't we, where it was like Darnie, and I remember Hanu Tiernan as well, and he was like, this guy is brilliant, and it's like they just didn't put him through.
I suspect there were some dodgy things in the background where certain numbers didn't match up to the necessary requirements, and they're
very diplomatic. Yeah.
Sorry, we can't do the deal.
Yeah.
Because clearly, those of us in the know.
Yes.
If you see what I mean.
Yes.
I'm not able to go into detail because I wouldn't want you to be subject of any libel.
No. Point take. No, I totally can read between those very clear lines, Dom. To be honest. Yeah, I know.
Okay, exactly. Shall we move on then?
Let's move on quickly.
So, obviously, my front two include Paolo Di Canio. Now,
of course,
let's do him because in my time going to West Ham, and people say Payet, but I'm sorry, Payet was good, no doubt about it, but he was a scumbag and a bad human being, and just doesn't know what the word loyalty, commitment, and professionalism mean. And I would say Di Canio is every bit his equal technically, but on top of that, there's any player not from West Ham loved West Ham more than Paolo Di Canio does. I don't think so. No. He absolutely, he was at West Ham longer than he was at any other club. People forget that. He was our leading goal scorer every time, for every season he was there. He often, there's a brilliant game. We played Man United and we were 3-0 down in 19 minutes. I don't know if you remember that game. We were getting absolutely destroyed. 3-0 down in 18 minutes. It's like, what are we going to do here? Then Di Canio just went, I'm not having this. So on his own, he got us back to 3-2, scored 2 goals. And then he was a fingertip away from making it 3-0. I think it was Roy Carroll in goal for Man United. And he tried to lob him, and literally, Roy Carroll's fingertip, nail, it wasn't even his fingers, just his nail got the ball. Collected it over the bar or whatever, and then next move, Man United went up the other end and made it 4-2. So that was game over. But he, on his own, again, nearly got us back into that game.
Yeah.
And Payet, for all his wonderfulness and his free kick taking, he also had an extraordinary experience against Man United. Fair enough. I just think Di Canio outranks him when you look at the whole package.
It's the package.
Di Canio actually was a better dribbler than Payet. Payet is very good running at people and doing that, but Di Canio would just turn 5 defenders at a time. He'd go that way and then he'd go that way, and the defenders have gone to Liverpool for lunch. They just could not keep up with him, and he used to do that pretend back heel that people fell for every single time. And and also he was first on the training pitch, last off the training pitch. He worked so hard to keep fit. You ask any of the players.
Yeah,
I'm sure and that's why he managed to sustain a career for as long as he did, and always at the highest level. But the best story about him is I can't remember which manager it was, but anyway, Italian manager. He was asked at a press conference, and this is a manager who'd managed Di Canio at Juventus, and he said, and at this point, I think Di Canio was playing in the UK. And the journalist asked, I wish I can remember his name, asked the Italian manager at the time, said, what would it take for Paolo Di Canio to get selected to play for Italy? He said, every other player would have to die of the plague first before I pick him to play for Italy. It's like, wow, he must have really fallen out with him in a big way.
Yeah.
So, sorry, just moving along, I'm conscious that I'm just talking rubbish now. My other striker is Freddie Canute.
Oh,
I loved Freddie.
I loved him.
I absolutely loved him. Just everything about him was classy. The way he ran, his ability in the air, his ability to play with his back to goal, his ability to turn and shoot. You know, he was just a great. Again, if he was playing for us now, he'd be a 40-goal a season striker.
Yeah.
Because he would just get, hopefully, he would get the service. We would give him the service that he would need.
Yeah.
He was just a wonderful player to watch, and I absolutely bitter when he left. But there you go, and who he left for. But he was just he was like the Sade of footballers. He was just a smooth operator, wasn't he? There was just something very smooth and cool, and
he was
just,
like,
well oiled.
You're right. No, you're right. He reminded me of, like, because firstly his debut was that Wimbledon game, if I remember correctly, was actually the game. I'm pretty sure it was. If I'm wrong, Kent Hammers will comment on it and tell me.
I think you're right. I'm not a Robert Banks. I'm not an
No. But someone will always comment and say I was wrong. But he was like, he was our Henri. It was like I was like, this guy is. When Henri, because at that time Henri was this, brilliant, and I was like, we've got a player here, and he was, as you said, so stylish. He was so
better
cool.
In the air as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, why he didn't go on to be absolutely, world ranked footballer is beside me. Maybe he was just a little bit too relaxed, possibly. But great footballer. Really loved watching him play. I really loved watching all of those guys play. So anyway, that is my 11. There you go.
That's brilliant, Don. Thank you. It's absolutely great, and there's some new, and that's what I love about this channel is new players come up all the time. So obviously, I think it was Danny's first time on I think Kanute as well, and Yushi I think as well, and Ilunga. I think you got 4.
I think his first time as well.
I think you got Ilunga in there as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Don, it's been great chatting, man. It's been absolutely brilliant. I loved it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for putting all the effort in as well. I love it when people make a real effort, because it's just makes a big difference. And as you said, it gets new players out and new stories, and it's absolutely brilliant.
Before we go, can I have a quick word about Mascherano?
Yeah, he was going to talk about Mascherano.
He's a forgotten man of the Tevez Gate season, and it's. I mean, there's loads of stories to come. I'm actually currently researching a book about that. I hope to be writing a book about Tevez Gate in the not too distant future. I'll let you know if it happens. Because in a previous life, I was a journalist, and I've gone back to writing now, so it's all wonderful. Anyway, so there's a lot of things that people don't know about that year, but one of the things, obviously, that people don't understand is why Mascherano, but actually it's pronounced Mascherano, wasn't played or whatever. There were contractual reasons about that, obviously. But and also I don't think people realised until he left and went to Liverpool and Barcelona just how good he was. He was the linchpin of one of the very best Barcelona teams for a long time. Everything went around him. But I'm not sure if people remember, but the year, obviously that year when they joined, was our first year in the UEFA Cup for God knows how long. And Mascherano made his debut in the first leg against Palermo at Upton Park. Okay, he was far and away the best player in that game. It was the best debut by a West Ham player I think I've ever seen. He was incredible. Maybe Trevor Sinclair was good. His debut, I think, against Everton, he scored 2 goals. But Mascherano's that game, he was incredible, absolutely incredible. It didn't go well for us. I actually went out to Palermo with my son for the second leg, and that is one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. I sat behind on the plane. I actually sat behind Cash Pennant, and he basically filled the plane.
Just say next to him for the rest of the time.
Just tell me when we land, because then I'll get to see some daylight. Then it's amazing. Anyway, but that first game at Upton Park, Mascherano was magnificent, and it's a great regret to me that because of the stupidity of the people. There you go. That's what I wanted to say.
That's right. No worries.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you, Don. Yeah. No, I totally agree. It was one of those. It was a bit of a travesty. I think why we didn't get to see as much out of him.
Absolutely. Travesty. Okay, mate. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Well, obviously, thank you everyone for watching as well. Like, share, subscribe. You know what to do. And until the next time, from me and Don, take care, everybody. Stay safe. We'll see you all very, very soon. See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.